Inside of you, there are two wolves, the daughter of a serial killer and Hawaii Uwu anime schoolgirl. You know, they say don't cross piss streams when urinating with a bunch of guys. So on a scale of 1 to 10, just how gay is crossing swords? Only smart intellectual thoughts here on the Piku Program channel. Body humor aside, crossing is an essential part of conflict. At first it's just mere ideas, then those ideas are put on display with words and action. And once they're on display, you're allowed to either agree or disagree with them. Disagreement crossing. I've long since wanted Hokazono to draw non-color intro pages like other manga, and this being the first one is exactly what I meant by that. It's such a simple showcase of how Uruha, Samura, and Chihiro are all intertwined, yet it also showcases how just like the blades, that intertwining comes from a point of conflict. For Samura and Chihiro, the conflict is obvious. For Samura and Uruha, the conflict is even obviouser, if that's even a word. But what is the conflict held between Uruha and Chihiro, you ask? The way I view it, it's a conflict of the past, symbolizing all that is wrong with the Seitei War, for he too is and was a war criminal. And beyond Uruha, since we're talking about the Kumeyuri here, it also obviously has the implication of Hirohiko, who not only binds him to Chihiro, but Samura as well. The captain mentions that all the parties are concurrently in a Mitsudomoe, which to really understand the full significance of requires a little history lesson. Tomoe are a swirl-like design found in Japanese heraldry and traditional art that symbolize movement, balance, and the interplay of existence itself. Example would be something like the relation between heaven, earth, and humanity. In the 1500s, during the Sengoku period, the phrase Mitsudomo gained extreme prevalence, as it was used to metaphorically describe situations where three powerful factions went at each other's throat in a struggle for dominance. As time goes on, with all languages around the world, these archaic expressions from war, religion, and culture seep their way into modern society while still containing the original intent of that word. Nowadays, Mitsudoma is used to, well, showcase a three-way fight, basically in any scenario. There is no real point to this little ramble, apart from the obvious thematics of heaven and hell already present in Kagurabachi, but Hokazono has so many deliberate term usages that have very specific background to them that I always feel the need to respect that intent by showcasing them in all of their glory. Further extrapolating the real-life counterpart of the Oniwa Bonshu, I think it is pure genius to use their role as spies, agents, and as intelligence gatherers to then fake someone's death. The daughter plotline is as surprising as it is dumbfounding. The higher-ups are shown to talk about her death, but only in the form of a long-released newspaper, which to me says that even they were only aware of her existence after the fact. And it is with this in mind that the Masumi, knowing about this existence, would with certainty put them in the highest confidentiality possible. And when you put that into perspective, it makes the betrayal and the Hishaku reveal that much more groundbreaking, as these people really thought they were on Samura's good side. I can only imagine that in order to truly betray the only people he confided in, he is assuming that their innate good nature, or in this case, lack thereof, would result in the daughter not being put in harm's way. I specifically wanted to get everything else out of the way first because this daughter recontextualizes Samura's character like an absolute meteorite. To start off, if I am to assume that the house we see Chihiro visit in the flashback is Samura's, well, it makes more than enough sense for it to be this big if it's not just for him, a wife and a daughter. Still insanely big, but that's that Seitei War cash talking. If not for that though, the captain mentions that they were already separated a long time before. And mind you, this is a long time before Chihiro even visited. What that also entails is that it's a long time before Kunishige and the eventual securing of the wielders. So now we know that the Kaminabi have been moving sketchy since literally forever. This isn't news, it's just reinforcement. But I want you to specifically pay attention to this eye panel. Anzen no tame, for your own safety. They would restrict the movement of all the family members who are related to the war. That is just Big Brother. Literally 1984. Hokazono is not fooling anybody with this reference. But let's just think about the eye symbolism, because in this chapter specifically, the owl is watching over the daughter. So again, Samura's blindness makes him unable to see that he's become a mirror of what he hates in the Kaminabi the most. This restrictive force, this all-seeing eye. Now, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, for freedom and safety, that can be true.
And you'd be right. He gave her that freedom, past, tense, because the current Samura, the one so morally conflicted with all the guilt he's had to live with, is not thinking straight like the one from the past. Even if we know that the eye doesn't see all and only sees via detecting spiritual energy, we can take the leap of faith and assume that the seal or sorcery put onto the daughter is probably quite potent, at least in that Samura would be able to sense, feel, and know about it. And here's probably the craziest part, the reason for the thumbnail and the beginning joke, the fact that she's just a regular schoolgirl. Normalcy in Kagurabachi is kind of like taboo. We first hear about it from Chihiro, then Sojo talks about literature, and after 50 chapters, Hiruhiko states that scary word that sends shivers down every single one of our spines. School. But you see, school isn't for these monsters. It's for normal people. People beyond their grasp. And here's where Samura's thought process comes to play, and it's fucking genius. Having been born as the child of a war criminal and a serial killer with some serious war PTSD, she would never, ever have a normal life. A parent's only wish for their child, just like in the Char flashback, is that they live a happy, normal, and fulfilling life. And so, Samura makes her forget. Forget of his existence, forget of their relationship, forget of his fatherhood. Because with this, she can finally be normal. Not recognizable to anyone as the daughter of Samura Seiichi, she can truly be free. And here comes the heart-crushing part. If you watched Jujutsu Kaisen, which I know you have, everyone has. I'm not even the biggest Jujutsu Kaisen fan, and even I've watched it. Hidden Inventory. Incredible arc, and even better showcase of Gojo's character. But what really sets this arc apart from what comes after is Riko Amanai, a young high school teenage girl who, let's just get the spoilers out of the way, dies horribly. Thrust into the world of sorcery while just wanting to have a fun, simple life with her friends. Yet life is never that fair. And similarly, yet differently, exists Samura's daughter. Unknowingly in the literal epicenter of the sorcery world. What she wants, who she wants, and if she'll ever get it is something you could never predict or even try to understand with just one chapter alone. But I sense a similar story coming, and there's proof, I'm serious. So, you know how I'm a big candidate for Hiruhiko getting his revenge for both Uruha and himself by killing Samura? Yeah, I still think that's going to happen. If anything, this makes it more plausible. Hiruhiko is introduced by doing a certain maneuver called bait to upset. Uruha does not fall for this bait. He doesn't get enraged, even as his precious friends lay there dead on the bench. He doesn't fall for the bait because he understands the value of his own life. Samura, on the other hand, hates himself, his actions, and everyone that caused him to be this way. So, riddle me this. What happens if a similar situation occurs, but this time, instead of the Kokugoku sorcerers and Uruha, it's Samura being shown his own daughter murdered in front of his eyes that don't even exist, but he can sense it, he can feel it, all that maternal instinct. He would lose it, a fit of rage, uncontrollable emotion, and blinded by anger that would also lead to his downfall. Now, is that all another theory? Sure, but you can see the point here, like heavily. Kuguri's cool, he reminds me of Yuta, and no, I'm not JJK Brainrotter, shut the fuck up. Oh, and I found myself a new what? Wait, 5,000 other people have already claimed her? God fucking damn it. I can't have anything in this world, can I? The Swordbearer assassination arc has been tumultuous in every sense of that word, and now knowing we've entered the second phase with the assumption that a third one still exists, dedicated to the woman wielder and the Hishaku that will chase after her. I mean, if you don't have this arc in your top 1 yet, what are you even doing?